All right, let's talk about something that's all around us, but we almost never see it. The deals that make our global economy tick. We're going to dive into the world of international trade agreements. I mean, really think about it. How does all that stuff get here? It's not magic, right? It's actually the result of decades of really complicated negotiations and deals that literally draw the map of our modern world. So, how does it all actually work? Okay, so at the most basic level, these agreements are the official rulebook for the global economy. They're treaties where countries agree on how to lower barriers and just make it easier and more predictable to do business with each other. You could almost think of them as the operating system for global commerce. To really get a grip on the deals we see today, we've got to go back to the beginning, back to the original problem they were invented to solve. And that problem was basically economic friction. Countries putting up walls, mostly taxes on stuff coming in from other places. You can see a clear story here. It all kicked off in 1947 with something called GATT. Its mission was simple: get countries to lower those import taxes. Then, in 1995, the World Trade Organization, the WTO, took the reins. It basically absorbed GATT and made the whole thing a much bigger, more formal institution. And now you're seeing these huge regional deals, like the African Continental Free Trade Area, which are all about much deeper economic integration. And this right here, this shows you just how much the game has changed. Back in the day, it was pretty much all about one thing: cutting taxes on physical goods. Simple. But now, it's a whole different universe. Modern deals are trying to line up incredibly complex rules for everything, not just goods, but services, the digital world, environmental standards, even labor rights. The ambition is just on another level. So, how'd we get here? Well, as the world got better and better at knocking down those first, simple tariff walls, something interesting happened. We started to notice a whole new layer of problems underneath, ones that were a lot trickier to deal with. Yeah, just getting rid of those initial taxes, it wasn't enough. The global economy was getting faster, more connected, way more complex, and the old simple rulebook just couldn't keep up. The new headache became what economists call non-tariff barriers. Think of these as the hidden friction. We're talking about painfully slow customs procedures, different safety standards for the same product in every country, confusing rules. You get the picture. And research on deals like the ASEAN-India agreement shows this stuff can be just as bad for trade as a big tax, sometimes even worse. And then the internet changed everything. Suddenly, the most valuable things being traded weren't in shipping containers anymore. They were data, digital services, ideas. So now, trade deals have to figure out how to write the rules for a world that's increasingly digital. And finally, there's this growing and really urgent understanding that all this global trade has a real impact on the planet. So there's huge pressure to build sustainability right into the trade rules. A perfect example is the WTO's recent deal on fishery subsidies, which is trying to use trade rules to stop overfishing. So with all these new, messy challenges, the world needed a completely new playbook. And over the last 20 years or so, that's exactly what's been built. One of the key tools in this new playbook is actually a surprisingly simple idea. It's called the gravity model. And just like in physics, it basically says that the bigger two economies are and the closer they are to each other, the more they're going to trade. It's kind of obvious when you think about it, but economists use this fundamental rule to predict how a new deal might change things and where trade is likely to flow. So what's actually in a modern trade deal? Well, it usually comes down to these 4 pillars. First, there's trade facilitation. That's just a fancy way of saying cut the red tape at the border with stuff like electronic payments. Second, regulatory harmony, so a car company doesn't have to build 10 different versions for 10 different markets. Third, a solid way to settle fights when they happen. And finally, building in all those new priorities, rules for the digital world, the environment, and labor. And here are 2 fantastic examples of that playbook in action. You've got the WTO's Trade Facilitation Agreement, or TFA. It's global, and it's laser-focused on just one thing: making customs faster and more transparent everywhere. Then you have the AfCFTA, which is regional but wildly ambitious. It's trying to create a single market for the entire African continent. It just goes to show how these modern tools can be shaped for very different goals. Okay, so these are huge, mind-bendingly complex agreements. But here's the most important part. They don't just live in government documents. They have a very real impact on all of us, every single day. So, 48 hours. What's that about?
Well, studies show that if countries fully implement that WTO trade facilitation agreement we talked about, it could slash customs delays by up to 2 full days, 48 hours. That is a massive, real-world difference that makes things faster and cheaper for everyone.
And this is a big but. It's never that simple. It's always a trade-off. These deals cause real shifts in the job market. Some industries win, others lose. They give us amazing access to new digital products and services, for sure, but they can also tie a country's hands on environmental policy. And more, they get tangled up in geopolitics and national security. And this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. We tend to think these deals are all about the money, but that's only half the story. They are absolutely tools of foreign policy. Countries use them to build alliances and project power. The economics and the geopolitics, they're two sides of the very same coin. So where does that leave us? We've gone from just cutting a few taxes to trying to write the rules for almost every part of our interconnected world. Which, brings us to the final and maybe the biggest question of all. This is it. This is the core challenge for trade in the 21st century. Is it even possible to write an agreement that drives growth, looks after workers and communities, and helps solve our environmental crises, all at the same time? As we keep trying to write the next chapter for our global economy, the answer to that question is going to define the world for all of us. Thanks for tuning in.